1:12. Now, when you're out walking or driving along the streets of Sydney, what are some of the biggest eyesores, do you reckon? Up there would have to be the dumped and abandoned e-bikes and scooters, because they are left in all sorts of places, and it's not just annoying to look at, it can be a safety issue too. Same for abandoned supermarket trolleys. There's actually been a 189% rise in reports of abandoned trolleys in New South Wales compared to last year, which I was quite surprised by. But that's according to the app Snap, Send, Solve. And I don't know if you've ever used that app before, but I know a lot of listeners have, with great success. And the way it works is if you see an issue in your community, you snap, take a picture, you then upload it, send to the app, and then it gets sent to the relevant authority. And in theory, the issue then gets solved. And I know a lot of parents in my neck of the woods use it to notify the local council when the equipment's broken in the playground, because it's a simple way of just taking a photo, sending it off and hopefully having it solved. But with the abandoned supermarket trolleys, I wonder what some of the strangest places are you've seen them. 131873. There's one on the Bay Run in the inner west that always pops up at low tide. It's right there in the middle of the bay. It's near where we were going to put the boat in, the water, in fact, near the boat ramp. And I realised that the trolley was there, so it was too low tide to do it. But the abandoned trolleys, where have you seen them? 131873. Danny Gorog is the CEO of Send, Snap, Solve, or the other way around, Snap, Send, Solve. Have to get it right order. And he joins us on the line. Danny, welcome to Afternoons.
Hi, Deb. Thanks for clarifying the name.
Yes, Snap, Send, Solve. It's one of those things, right, where you just think the best ideas are often the simplest, and this one is brilliant.
Yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate the kind thoughts. Yes, it's a very practical app, and it's certainly gaining a lot of momentum across Australia. And I think one of the beautiful things, and you talked about it, is it started as an app where you could report issues to local councils, but for many years we've expanded out of local councils into utilities, and abandoned trolleys is a great example, because it's not just the councils that look after our streets. You know, the roads in particular are very complicated. There are council roads, there are state roads, there are public transport. So, but abandoned trolleys has been this kind of mainstay of Snap, Send, Solve since we started taking reports on it in about 2018, 2019. And as you say, reports are up dramatically. I've just had a look at the latest data. Nearly 19,500 abandoned trolley reports in New South Wales to date, 2023, and just compare that to a total of 24,700 last year. So, you know, likely to get to 35,000-ish this year just in New South Wales alone. And I think we'll get close to 100,000 abandoned trolley reports across the whole country. And
why is that? Why are we seeing so many more shopping trolleys abandoned? Because I thought that the supermarkets were being brought to bear and penalised accordingly, and a lot of the trolleys have got the built-in technology that if you take them beyond a certain area, the wheels lock off anyway.
Well, some of them do. I think supermarkets are aggressively trying to roll that technology out, but you know, sometimes it doesn't work. I don't know. Like there's both more people hearing about Snap, Send, Solve, more people are feeling empowered to report stuff when they see it. But also, I think, you know, it's getting harder and harder to park and to get cars to the supermarket. So people who live in areas of supermarket, when we look at the data, you can just see that the supermarkets in the middle and these abandoned trolleys just radiate outwards, and especially around, you know, high density areas. You just see more and more people go, you know what, I can't bother to take the bags. The bags cost money now. So, like, I'll just take the trolley and I'll leave it outside my apartment building, and I presume someone will just come pick it up. So I think there's a confluence of factors that are driving this behaviour.
And are there certain areas of Sydney where it's worse than others?
Look, there are. I mean, obviously, you know, there's the inner Sydney, the sort of metro Sydney areas where there are the most reports. But it really, I was just looking. I mean, there are literally in nearly every council area there are abandoned trolley reports. And so, actually, what we're doing with Snap, Send, Solve is we're not burdening local councils dealing with that. We're just sending them directly to the supermarkets to get dealt with. And when we ask our snappers to let us know whether the problem gets resolved, and, you know, around 85-90% of snappers tell us that using Snap, Send, Solve gets rid of the trolleys, gets them picked up. There are still some problem trolleys, as you say, in waterways, in hard to get spots, which just kind of seem to stay there forever. But by and large, snappers are having a great experience with Snap, Send, Solve.
Yeah, and like there's the trolleys, there's also the the share bikes and the scooters,
well,
which we've seen them in all sorts of ridiculous. I saw one of those share bikes when they were at their peak, sort of on top of the tennis courts. They get chucked in all sorts of weird and wonderful places. So presumably this app will help sort that out too.
Correct. And we had, do you remember the O-bikes, the yellow bikes? We had them, they disappeared a couple of years ago, but now we've got the Lime scooters, we've got Neuron scooters, and they end up in weird spots. They're a little bit harder to kind of throw on fences because they're a bit heavier, but we get hundreds of reports of just scooters like blocking driveways, blocking footpaths, and people in wheelchairs, for example, they literally just can't go down the street because there's a scooter or an e-bike in their way. I mean, look, I don't know if it's a cultural issue, but it's certainly happening. I've actually just come back from I was in Copenhagen, and there were lots of shared bikes and lots of scooters everywhere, but they seem to be more orderly. Like you've got to drop them off at certain designated spots, whereas here, and I'm in Melbourne, here you can just kind of leave them anywhere, which seems to me like the wrong approach. Yeah,
they've got to be in one central area and parked accordingly, because otherwise it just becomes really unwieldy and really unworkable. And so what are the other common reports that people make to the app, apart from the trolleys and the share bikes and scooters?
Well, you picked up a good one. Kids' playgrounds, there's heaps of problems with kids' playgrounds, and parents are loving the ease of sending reports with SnapSend Solve. But the big ones are dump rubbish, graffiti, illegal parking is a massive problem, whether that's someone parking over driveways, people parking in, acrod spots, you name it, water leaks. I mean, there's literally hundreds of different incident types you can report on, and we see a huge number of increase in all of the main areas. Yeah, well, it's good to see that it's successful, and I'm getting lots of feedback from listeners who have used the app quite well. Good on you, Danny. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate your time. Thanks, Deb. Danny Gorog there from the app SnapSend Solve. And, lots of calls. Harry's on the line. You're experienced with these shopping trolleys being on local council, have you, Harry?
Yeah, look, Deb, back in 2015, I tried to get this issue addressed. We had very serious issues with shopping trolleys being abandoned, even to the point where we had two tourists, young Swedish tourists, coming into 2GBRadio, and they went down the hill at very high speed, and they actually died. But two of them died going down in a shopping trolley. And prior to this happening, I tried to get this issue addressed by writing to the state government and writing to local shopping centres, asking them to take responsibility for these shopping trolleys. They shouldn't be allowed to leave the entrances or the exits of the shopping centre. And I'm just surprised that 10 years on, or almost 8 years later, we're talking about this issue, in relation to shopping trolleys. They pose a threat. They're a public liability. They're a nuisance. And they pollute the environment. So, look, I really don't understand why this issue, the state government should implement some sort of rules and laws in place to get these shopping centres into shape, so that they don't allow these trolleys to leave their exits. They really do pose a problem, and this is not new. This is something that's been going on for many, many years. And as your previous speaker said earlier, he mentioned there that it tends to be in inner city areas. Well, it is, especially where there's high density, like units, and people tend to, take them out of the shopping centre and they wheel them down to flat, wherever there's high density living, you're going to have these issues with shopping trolleys, and something really needs to be done about it. I tried to address it 10 years ago, and we're still talking about it now. So
it's a major issue, Harry. You're absolutely right. Good on you. Thank you for getting in contact. Lots of you are doing the same. Virginia says she's got 4 shopping trolleys opposite my house that the residents put their food waste in, and they can't take the trolleys back, so I'm paying nearly $2,000 a year to Parramatta Council for what? It's an absolute disgrace. No responsibility, and people couldn't care less, and they should. Janet reckons trolleys can be solved easily. Aldi uses the coin, but people are just lazy. And you can get, if you don't have a coin, I find the coin thing annoying because I don't ever have coins on me, and you want the trolley, but you can get from Aldi and even from the supermarkets that require you to put the coin in the slot, on the keyring, the little keyring attachments, which act like the coin anyway. So it's easily solved, which is absolutely right, Janet. Thank you for that. And lots of people have used and do use SnapSend Solve, including Roy, who says he's used it multiple times to report broken Telstra pits And as an NBN tech, it works really well. Another one, Sam says there was a dangerous broken footpath that I reported to Lane Cove Council.